Hello, Keith Rucker here, VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today, metal planer day. We're doing some work on this. When I finished up this restoration a couple of months ago, I mentioned at the very end that I was all done with it, except for really one thing that I was going to take care of at a later date, and had to do with some oil cups that mounted on the ends of the ways down here, that as the oil in here just kind of dripped out, it would catch it. The original planer had those on it. When I got it, it did not have oil cups. And my game plan was I was going to have my buddy Clark Easterling at Windy Hill Foundry cast me some new ones. I had found a friend of mine has this same planer. He let me borrow one of them. We were working with Clark to get that done. Lo and behold, this past year when I was up at Arnfest up in outside the Chicago, Illinois area, which is an annual event that we do in end of September each year, I got to talking with a gentleman that I actually got this planer from, who lives up in Virginia. And you know, he had been watching the series and all that. And one of the questions he asked me, he says, "Why didn't you put the oil cups back on there?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have any oil cups." And he said, "Well, that's odd." He says, "When I got the planer, it had oil cups." And I said, "Well, when you brought the planer to me, it didn't have any oil cups on it." So he promised me he would go back home. He did some digging around, and lo and behold, he found the original oil cups to this machine. So I'm not going to have to make new ones, and we've got the original equipment on here, which I'm really excited about. Today's project, we're going to be getting these cleaned up, get them painted back up, do a little bit of repair work, do a little bit of finish work to them, and so on. So let me show you how these work, and let me show you a couple of issues I know we've got, and then we're going to get in here and start getting these ready so that they will match the beautiful finished restored planer that we've got here. So here's the situation. We've got the table here, and they have the ways that everything rides on. We've got these way wipers on the end, which you can put oil in. There's wicks in there that wick it down and help keep this table lubricated. We've got an oil pump on here that's actually oiling into the center of the table to help keep it lubricated. But you've got excess oil, and with that going back and forth, the oil comes down the end and drips down. You can actually see on the floor down here an oil stain where I've already had some issues with that. So these oil cups are designed to just kind of come in here. They've got a set screw on the side, and they just clamp onto the machine. And whenever they get full, you just go over here, unclamp it, and you can go dump this oil wherever you want to dump it to, strain it, recycle it, whatever. But these just mount to the machine just like such. So very fortunate. Got the originals that came off of it. Not going to have to make these. Very excited to have them, but we do need to clean them up. As you can see, they are in pretty, not rough shape. They just need to be, get the old paint cleaned up off of them and repainted, and I think they'll be good, with a couple of exceptions, and I'll show you what we got to deal with there. Well, it's pretty obvious that one of the oil cups had a chunk got knocked out of it, and somebody brazed it back in place. And you know, it looks like it's a good braze. They didn't line it up as well as I probably would have liked it, but I'm going to see if I can clean that up and make it look a little bit more presentable. Also, on all of the other cups, there is a crack, kind of right here, and there's one right here. I can see that already. There may be other cracks in these when we get them cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and do some preventative measures on those, and probably go ahead and braze those cracks up just to make sure we don't have problems down the road. These, got to remember, this planer was built in the probably 1890s is my best guess. So the fact that they've survived this long is pretty amazing, and I would really like to keep the original ones on here. So if I ever do have to get one cast, Clark is going to be casting some for Andrew Alexander, who's the guy who let me borrow one because he doesn't have a full set of them. So I may even replace this one. We'll see. I don't know. If I can make it look presentable, we'll keep it. I like the idea of keeping the original equipment, but we'll see how it looks and go from there. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take all this stuff over to my blasting cabinet and just sandblast these things and get all this old stuff off, get it down to bare metal, and then we can really examine things and see what we need to do. Let's get these in the blasting cabinet. and get ready to get this thing knocked out. So we'll just put these in here. We'll drop our lid back down. Go ahead and latch her down. I'm gonna put I don't have a dust collector for this, but I got a shop vac that I use, and that does a pretty good job. So let me get that hooked up, and we'll start blasting. Let's get in here and see if we can get some of this stuff blasted out. There's one of them done. One down and 3 more to go. We'll bring you back. Sandblasting is done. I got all these cleaned up pretty nicely. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm going to start over here next with the grinder with a flap disc and see if I can kind of grind some of that braze down and get it where it looks a little bit more blended in there, and see if I'm going to need to do some repair work to that. I'm just going to use my battery powered angle grinder here with a flap disc. You know, that's a lot better. I've also got a little, looks like they brazed this, looks like they tried to weld that. I'm not sure what they did. I'm guessing they MIG'd it, which is really not a good idea. It can cause a lot of stress in cast iron, but we'll go ahead and see if we can grind that back as well. All right, that's a lot better. If I can handle that, it's not too hot. Now on the inside, I'm gonna probably hit that with a burr on a grinder. I'm just sitting here pausing because I think I see another crack running right through there. Doesn't look like it on the other side. Maybe it's just a, I don't know, looks like a crack. We'll take a better close at it. There's a crack right here. Okay, that's the back side of this one that they welded up. We may see if we can braze that a little bit on the inside. All right. Got a die grinder with a burr on it, carbide burr. I want to leave some of that in there just for strength, and it's not going to be too noticeable on the inside, so I think we're just going to leave it kind of like that. Now on these other pieces here, we got some cracks. I want to try to find the end of that crack, drill a small hole, and then cut a groove in there, and then we'll go over there and braze that up to make sure that it doesn't spread. Took a Sharpie pen and found all the cracks and just kind of marked them, and just so I can see them easier, what I'm going to do is we're just going to come in here and right at the end of the crack, and I stopped my Sharpie right at the end of the crack, we're going to drill a hole. Now the purpose of doing this is that when I braze that up, that crack is going to want to continue, but when you drill a hole at the end of the crack, it kind of stops that crack from continuing. It just takes some stress out of that area and helps things out. So we'll go ahead and put another one right there. Got one right here. Okay. Now what I want to do is come in here and actually just grind a little groove along the crack, and that's going to give a place for my braze to go down into and help hold it back together. All right, I think we're ready to go get set up for brazing. So I think what we're going to do over here is try some TIG brazing. I've got it kind of set up over here where I can work, and we're just going to try to put some of this bronze down in there. So I'm using silicon bronze. Yeah, silicon bronze, just double checking there. And again, I just want to do this. Now, for bigger stuff, I like flame brazing. For thinner stuff, I can control things a little bit better with this TIG torch and just create an electric arc to create my heat. You just don't want to get it too hot. When you're TIG brazing, you're not welding. We're not melting the base material. We're just getting it hot enough for the bronze to bind to it. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this. You know, cherry red is about as hot as we want to get that base metal. Let's start by, I'm just going to get some heat going here. It's nice if you can preheat these parts, put them in the oven or something, put them in a torch, you know, to heat them up. But I'm just going to do it this way. I got my heat rather low right now. And again, we're not trying to melt anything. All right, I can tell by the way it's just kind of blending in now that we are up to heat. And so I'm just going to kind of drop some in there. All right, first bead done. Now we're going to come over here and get this second one here. This one should go a little bit quicker because we've already kind of got a preheat in there from the what we've been working over here beside it. But still, I'm going to start by heating it up. And I got these over here on a fire blanket, and I'm just going to wrap them up and let them cool down nice and slow. Wrapping them up like this will reduce stresses in those parts as they cool down. So we'll let that cool down and come back after a while and finish these up. All right, guys, these have cooled down. So same as we did on this one, I'm just going to get out the angle grinder with a flap disc. We're going to clean those up. And I think we'll have all this repair work done. I'm going to do that off camera. You've already seen the process. All right, guys, these have been ground down. And one little trick that I'll share with you that I use when I grind on cast iron, when I get through, I will take it to my bead blaster and sandblast it again. And what that does is it kind of knocks the grind texture off and puts a little bead texture back in there, and when you paint it, it really makes it blend in where you can't see those grind marks as well. It's not 100% perfect, but it does a lot better job than if you do nothing. So these are ready for paint, and I'm just going to take some this is some semi-gloss black, which is what I painted the machine with, and we're going to give these things a good coat of paint, let them dry, and probably later today we'll be able to put these back on the machine. Well, here we go. We got everything all cleaned up, painted up, repaired, and ready to go back on the machine. So let's see if we can get some of these things installed. So here we go. That looks pretty good, about right there. Yeah, that's good. I like the way they designed this, where you kind of have this little piece that comes down in the bottom, so any oil that comes down there is going to go to the lowest point before it drips. So that's the whole purpose of that. They also worked really good when I was lifting this with slings back when we were working on the machine, transporting it to get the bed ground and all that. That really worked good as kind of a hook to grab those slings. But the real purpose of it, again, is that oil runs down here, runs all the way down to that lowest point, and then drips into these cups. So we'll get all 4 of these installed, and we should be ready to roll here. This will be awesome to not have to worry about making these things. There we go. Got those 2 on. We'll do the 2 on the back. And there they are, nice installed. Those are actually, on there pretty good. I'm happy with that. Man, that really looks good. And that's been the missing piece on this whole restoration since I finished it, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have the originals on here. I do need to get these pins pulled out. These I put in here back when we were restoring it. This was actually giving me a reference measurement when we were scraping and grinding this in. I put those in there so that we could keep track of our grinding and all that. They were just literally for reference then. I need to get a little puller and pull those dowel pins out, and but that looks great. That looks awesome. And we got the same thing on the back side as well. Well, there we go. We got the oil cups installed. Everything looks great. This machine is pretty much done from a restoration standpoint now. Although I do have one other modification that we are going to make, and that is I've decided when we did this, again, if you haven't seen my whole series on this, you don't know what I'm talking about here, but if you have, you probably heard some of this before. But when we redid this machine, I decided to mount the motor in the line shaft onto the machine to make it self-contained so that I can move the machine around, sell the machine if something happens later down the road or whatever, and everything was on here. When this machine was built in the 1890s, the pulleys on the top, that whole counter shaft would have been mounted in the ceiling. It would have been belted up to a line shaft. And while that's all cool, it just makes it difficult if you ever want to move the machine or whatever. You pretty much have it set right there. And the fear is that if something happens to me down the road, I won't live forever. This won't be my machine forever. But the next person that gets it, if they didn't get the line shaft and all that with it, and often in auctions, that kind of stuff just doesn't stay together. So it was really nice that all this machine had stayed together over the years. I wanted to make sure it did, so we put it all on there. But when I put the motor on, it's just an on-off, start-stop, no speed control whatsoever. Back in the day, they probably had a step cone pulley on this machine, or going from the main shaft to the counter shaft or something, where you had a range of speeds where you could adjust it, either like probably 3 or 4 different speeds. To get around that, long story here, I'm going to take just the motor starter off of this. It just starts the motor at whatever speed the motor runs at. And we're going to put a variable frequency drive on here, which is a modern electrical piece, but it allows you to vary the speed of the motor, vary the frequency of the electricity going to the motor, which in turn varies the speed of the motor. And that will allow us to have a range of speeds that we can run this in, which will make it a lot more practical and useful to use in the shop. So I got some videos. I'm probably going to do a video on that. I haven't done a whole lot with variable frequency drives, at least video wise. It's a very interesting topic, and we're going to go into some of that. I use variable frequency drives for motor control in my shop, and we're going to be doing that here down the road. So keep an eye out for that video, hopefully coming up soon. Once that's done, we're ready to start using this machine for real. And I've got a job that's been waiting to be done on this, so it is a little bit of a priority to get it knocked out. With all that said, guys, that is a wrap. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up, comments are greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon up there to give me to get notifications when new videos are posted to the site. And a big, huge thank you to all the Patreon supporters out there. The Patreon supporters are the guys that do help financially support the site here, which really goes a long way towards me bringing you guys new content and making new videos to put out a couple of times a week. So with all that, guys, thanks for watching again, and we will catch you on the next video.